We live?
We are live right now. Yes, we are. Go ahead
Okay.
and hit
Hello and
that.
welcome to the first ever Pigskin Talk episode on YouTube, courtesy of my friend Casey Cox, using StreamYard. And um, I'm excited for this opportunity as he's a good friend of mine. And so let's get started. So basically, if you weren't here last night, when he was introducing the show, I talk about the NFL and the college football season, and those are the two main things I mostly talk about. So I like to start off with the show with a segment I call "Sink, Swim, or Float" for the NFL. It's basically about me talking about like what teams I think are going to make it, what teams I think are going to not make it, and what teams are basically you have to wait and see if they'll make the postseason or not. So in the AFC, teams I have not making the playoffs so far in the season are the Steelers, the Texans, the Jaguars, the Colts, and the Raiders. And the Steelers are on a 2-game losing streak. The Texans are also on a 2-game losing streak, same as the Colts. The Jaguars are on a 5-game losing streak, and the Raiders are on a 1-game losing streak.
Hey,
Um,
Colin. Let me
yeah,
ask you a question there. You said those are the teams you have not making the playoffs right now.
yeah.
Of those teams, which one do you feel has the greatest shot to make the playoffs if one of them was? And honestly, in my opinion, I don't think any of those teams you just named are going to make the playoffs. But if there was one, I kind of want to get into the discussion a little bit of who you think and who we think would make the
Um,
playoffs if it was one of those teams and why.
if there was one team that I think would make the playoffs, I think it would have to be. Sorry for the noise in the background, by the way. Um, the team that I think it would be would I would have to say the Raiders because they have a decent quarterback, Derek Carr, along with a good head coach. He came from New England. He was the offensive coordinator for them. And not only do they have Derek Carr, but they also have Devontae Adams as well, which I think Devontae Adams is still suspended because he pushed over a cameraman after the Raiders lost a couple weeks ago. But if that was a team I would have to say that would make it, it would be the Raiders because of the Carr and Adams relationship because they played with each other at Fresno State, and because they have a good head coach who came from, like I just said, New England. It might give him might it might be 1 or 2 years before he gets the Raiders into a groove, but they'll be a very low seed if they get in.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely. I would agree with that, and I was actually going to say the same thing. I think it will be the Raiders if one of them was to make it, just because of the talent level they have out there in Vegas right now for the Raiders. It's some of the best talent that the Raiders team has seen ever. I think.
yeah, because Carr really didn't have anyone basically to throw it to or have a good target until
Right.
the Raiders just somehow, some way got Devontae Adams.
Absolutely. And speaking of that Devonte Adams incident, I believe we can clearly state that is an ex photographer that he pushed over because I do not believe he will have a job in the NFL once it's all said and done.
Oh,
I mean,
why do you?
he cried over a little bit of a shove and is going after an NFL player after NFL talent. The NFL will get rid of him before they get rid of Devontae for such a small incident. Like that was barely even a shove. If a guy could get an award for flopping, that photographer deserves the award for flop of the year.
Yeah. Speaking of photographers, Randy Johnson is a photographer in the NFL now. The Hall of Fame pitcher in MLB.
Right? Well, there you go.
Yeah.
They've already got a replacement for the one that cried over the getting pushed a little bit. Like, I'm sorry, you get in a player's way when a player's mad, a player's gonna push you. That don't mean you go and try to sue them and press charges. And you think the NFL's really gonna let you work another NFL game after that?
Yeah. And it really looks at it would have looked like that photographer got in his way to get a picture of him to put like a headline that the Raiders lost. But
Absolutely, and Adams wasn't having any of it, and I don't blame Adams one bit. Anybody would have pushed that photographer for stepping in their way. I mean, I'm sorry, you step in my way when I'm walking down the street, I'm going to push you out of my way. So I don't even have to be mad to do it.
yeah, people in New York City push over people all the time.
Right?
Yeah.
Exactly. So,
All right, moving on for the teams that I think that will make the playoffs in the AFC, and when I mean will, either they have a very good chance, or a decent seed in the wild card. The teams that are making it are the Bills. They're on a 4-game win streak, and they just beat the Packers this past Sunday night, which before the season started, that looked like a good matchup, the Packers and Bills. And then you see the Packers lose 4 games in a row, and Rodgers has basically no one to throw it to. So, I mean, in the Bills' passing game is decent as well. They have Josh Allen at quarterback. He can run it. He can throw it. He's got Stephon Diggs, Isaiah McKenzie. I mean, he's got weapons for days.
right. The Packers have, in essence, finally collapsed after their 2 or 3 year, what's been a 2 or 3 year downslide. They have finally collapsed at the old age of Aaron Rodgers at QB. I think it's about time they try to move away from him as quickly as possible, in my opinion, because it's not just he doesn't have talent to throw it to, but when he's throwing it in the dirt or he's overthrowing it. He's not even throwing accurate passes for these guys to even literally try to get their hands on. So, or at least from what I've seen. So, I think it's time for them to move on to their secondary quarterback and try to bring that guy up. And if they don't have one, then they need to go out and draft one because they damn sure didn't trade for one before the trade deadline. And the
Yeah,
Bills, Josh Allen is a beast. We've known Josh Allen was gonna be a beast. All they needed to do was put talent around Josh Allen, and Josh Allen was going to succeed. And now they've gotten the talent around Josh Allen. Josh Allen is starting to succeed.
yeah. Um, there's the Bills have their franchise quarterback, no doubt, and uh,
Absolutely, for the first time in what, 20 years, 30 years?
yeah, and the quarterbacks they had in the past were Fitzpatrick, and I can't even name the other quarterbacks because they weren't as good as Josh Allen. But I mean, Josh Allen should stay in Buffalo for most of his career,
If not all
and
of his career, he will very much be the Tom Brady of the Buffalo Bills, I believe.
yeah, no doubt. And another team I have making the playoffs in the AFC are the Dolphins. The Dolphins are on a 2-game win streak. Uh, they're doing decent. They had that Tua Tagovailoa head injury incident a couple weeks ago, where the NFL got into some trouble on what is a good concussion protocol and everything. He got injured during the Bengals game. He went down hard and saw his fingers were crossed and looked ugly. And
Yeah. That was an absolute ugly incident. I'm glad the NFL changed their concussion protocols after that incident.
yeah, um, I mean, you can hit the quarterback, but it's just, I mean, to an extent. Like if you hit the quarterback and he still has the ball in his hand, that's obviously not roughing the passer. But uh, hold on, come on, man, comparing to Brady so quick. Uh, well, um, Josh Allen's getting there. I mean, he's not a Super Bowl champion winning quarterback yet. I mean, the
No,
Bills
not
still have
yet.
the yeah yet the Bills still have to get past the Chiefs in the playoffs.
And
But
that's why I said he will. I think, and that's why I said I think he will be the Tom Brady of the Buffalo Bills, not because I think he's a quarterback that can win Super Bowls right now, but because of the longevity he will have with the Bills, like Brady had with the Patriots of 20 years. Like, that's just unseen. You don't see a quarterback 20 years with one team until you saw Brady do it. And now I think you're about to see Josh Allen do it. As long as Josh Allen stays healthy and can continue to play the game of football. That's the key.
Yeah, and the third team I have making the playoffs in the AFC are the Titans. They're on a 5-game win streak, and one of the reasons why I have the Titans winning getting into the playoffs are because of only basically one man, Derrick Henry. He's a beast of a running back. I mean, you try to take Derrick Henry down single handedly, it's not going to happen. He's just going to run you over. And Ryan Tannehill, he's a decent quarterback for now, but I mean, they're on a good run right now. Even yes, the Titans only beat the Texans by 7, but we could very well see the Titans in the playoffs again this year. And last season they got knocked out by the Bengals in the divisional round, and the Titans were the number 1 seed. So I mean, all the playoff material, yes. All the Super Bowl material, uh, not quite. And the final team I have making the playoffs in the AFC are the Chiefs. They're on a 1-game win streak, and in my opinion, they're not as dangerous as they are when they had Tyreek Hill. Now, when they had Tyreek Hill, yeah, sure, they're very dangerous. I mean, they have multiple weapons. I mean, not to say that the Chiefs don't have multiple weapons, but I mean, they had the fastest guy in the NFL.
I
Um,
gotta give a shout out real quick to my boy Seven. That's why I popped his comment up on the screen. He follows my other podcast, the A7FL podcast that I do, and so he's an avid listener to all things sports, and he'll probably have some good input as we float along this. And I love doing this show with you already because you're an AFC guy, and it's easy to tell you're an AFC guy. You focus mainly on the AFC, whereas I'm an NFC guy. I'm a Dallas Cowboys fans, and
yeah,
somebody earlier said something about Mahomes probably has a better chance of reaching that status before Allen. I would say, okay, yeah, good argument, but I was saying Allen to Brady because of the geographical area and the resemblance. That was mainly why I went Tom Brady Allen, not Tom Brady Mahomes.
yeah. Speaking of the Titans, a little bit off topic of what I'm talking about, but they're looking to host a Super Bowl here the next few years because I don't know if you've seen their new stadium design,
Oh yeah,
but it looks really nice.
it's going to be one of the top tier uh, stadiums. I think the only stadium that'll have it beat is maybe Jerry's World in Texas and SoFi Stadium in California. And that's because I've seen those two up close and personal, and I've actually been inside SoFi, and I don't think anybody will ever outdo what SoFi has.
Yeah, SoFi looks nice. Okay, um, moving on to the AFC teams that we have to wait and see who might make the playoffs are the New York Jets. They're on a 1-game losing streak. I say the Jets because a few weeks ago, I mean, they beat the Packers at Lambeau Field, and they were on a good streak there for a minute. The Jets aren't as bad as they have been, surprisingly. Zach Wilson is kind of in a groove. They got that rookie wide receiver. So if the Jets do make the playoffs, I think it's going to be more of their passing game than. Thanks, Cassandra. Anyways, I think it's going to be more of their passing game than their running game because Zach Wilson's not looking too bad right now. The next team I have that might make the playoffs, might not, are the Patriots. They're on a 1-game win streak. The Patriots they lost. They beat the Jets this past week, but the week before they lost to the Bears, and they're kind of in a quarterback controversy because I they have the starting quarterback Mac Jones from Alabama, but Bailey Zappi is not doing that bad either. I mean, during the Bears game, the fans in the stands were chanting Zappy. Zappy comes
I was
in.
gonna I was gonna say, I think honestly, I think at the end of the season, you see New England move away from Mac Jones, and try to trade him off for something, because I think they can get a second or a third round pick out of him. But I think they move into position to move Zappy into the starting position, just because Zappy seems to have a little more of Zap to him than Mac
Oh,
does.
oh yeah, no doubt. And you kind of see history repeating itself a little bit too, because the starting quarterback gets hurt, Mac Jones or Bledsoe, and then the backup comes in and starts lighting it up like Tom Brady did. But the difference is Mac Jones got his spot back, and but Bledsoe didn't. So I mean, this
Yeah,
is
that's the only that is the only difference is Bledsoe never got his spot back. Mac Jones has, but Mac Jones has because Bill Belichick doesn't have the faith in Zappy yet that he had in Tom Brady right off the get go. But I think
yeah,
he's getting that confidence in Zappy and not so much in Mac, and he's going to end up moving away from Mac if he has anything to say about it.
yeah. The way Zappy's playing, I wouldn't be surprised if Bill Belichick pulled the plug on Jones and moved on to Zappy. Because I mean, Zappy's a decent quarterback. He threw for a touchdown pass against the Bears. Uh, threw an interception too, but from what I saw, Zappy's a decent quarterback. He's not like Kenny Pickett. I mean, I think he's a little bit better than Kenny Pickett because of what he can do. Uh, Kenny Pickett struggled against the Dolphins, and but like I said,
I,
we'll wait.
I like I like name play, so I'm going to do a little name play here. Wouldn't it be great to see the New England Patriots with Zappy go up against the Falcons? Because you know the Patriots all week would be zap the Falcons, zap the Falcons.
Yeah, yeah, that would be fun. And the next team I have that might make the playoffs, might not, are the Baltimore Ravens, and they're on a 2-game win streak. Now the Ravens have this kind of offense that is kind of like the modern triple option where they play in the where they're in the pistol, and Lamar has the option to hand it off to the fullback, the running back, or keep it. Um, Basically, the Ravens' offense is glued to Lamar, and if the defense shuts down Lamar, keeps him contained, the Ravens don't have an offense. So uh, Lamar is kind of similar to Josh Allen, if not a little bit better, because he's a little, in my opinion, he's a little bit agile and a little bit quicker than Allen. He can get the ball out pretty well, but I mean, he's no Patrick Mahomes. I mean, he doesn't have that magic sidearm throw that we see Mahomes
Yeah.
just co-
Well,
come
I
with. Like, go ahead.
I think that Lamar Jackson, one, has more speed and more agility than Josh Allen does.
Yeah, yeah,
Josh Allen is getting there. Josh Allen has it himself, but he doesn't have it to the level that Lamar Jackson does. I personally don't care for Lamar Jackson. I think the Ravens have their quarterback in him if they can build a team around him. But that's the thing; he's one of those that you have to build a team around him. You can't you can't build a team around anybody but him if he's on that team. It seems.
um, Oh, Seven asked, "What's your team, Colin?" Well, honestly, Seven, my I like the Patriots, but I try not to be biased. I don't be biased in my podcast. I see things for what they are in my show, and I don't take sides. I talk about teams fairly. But
True
to answer,
broadcaster.
yeah, true broadcaster. um, And then I have the Bengals. They're on a one-game losing streak. The reason why I put the Bengals down on there is because I think they're a hungry team. Uh, 2 seasons ago they were like a two-win team. Last season they made it to the Super Bowl and were a field goal away from tying it and going to overtime. So uh, the reason why I have them on there is because of their determination and hunger and their will to to make it back to the Super Bowl because they were very close, and they got the weapons for it. They got Jamar Chase, good wide receiver, and they got Joe Burrow. I mean, the passing game's going to carry them, um, but that's why I have them possibly making the playoffs. Their running game, eh, okay, but Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase are gonna carry the Bengals to the playoffs if they ever make it in there. Do you have anything to say about that, Casey?
No, not really. I agree with that. That the Bengals are definitely a maybe a contender, but because they're hungry. But if they keep sliding the way they are, they're not going to make it.
Yeah, and then I have the Browns, which they just beat the Bengals this past week. Which, uh, in all honesty, uh, I mean, the Browns kind of screwed up their quarterback situation because they had a good quarterback, Baker Mayfield, and then for some reason they trade him off to the Panthers, which he's now a backup quarterback, and they signed Deshaun Watson, who's now the most paid quarterback in the NFL for.
Highest paid suspended quarterback in the NFL, might we say.
Yes, he's not going to be able to play until week 12, if at all, this season. So Cleveland does as Cleveland does.
Well, I can't blame them for the getting rid of Baker Mayfield because Baker Mayfield was the kind of player for the Browns that honestly would have made the Browns implode from the inside out because of how big his head is. He's had a big head since he played for OU. I mean, that's
Yeah,
just he's always been the kind of the Johnny Manziel in my eyes of the new day. You know, Johnny Manziel was big headed, thought he was going to be a big shot player, and got to the NFL and didn't do nothing. Well, Baker Mayfield, so successful in college football, thought he was going to get to the NFL, be big shot, go to some big team. He went to the fucking Browns. Come on now. It's the Browns. he
to
couldn't
be
have
fair,
expected to do he couldn't have expected to win a Super Bowl with the Browns, let
to be
alone
fair,
he was
to be
lucky he
fair, he
made
did.
the playoffs.
Yeah, he did bring him to the playoffs against the Steelers, which they, I think they got beat by the Steelers in the wild card round.
Yeah.
But
So I
yeah,
mean, and that's why I say, I mean, he was lucky to lead them that far. But I mean, him by himself he's not a threat at quarterback at all, if you ask me, other than his deep ball. He can't really run. He's not real agile. When he tries to run, he gets ran out of bounds more times than not. I mean, yeah,
yeah,
if he has some open field, he'll run. If the defense breaks down and gives him 10 yards to run, he'll make 20 out of it. But he's got to be given that option. I mean, he's not like a Lamar Jackson who can step in the pocket, get swarmed by three guys, wiggle his way out of it, and run for 50 yards and a touchdown. That's just not Baker Mayfield. And
no,
I think him going to the Panthers at first, I went, you know what? Maybe this is a new start for Baker. Maybe he gets to start there. Maybe he leads a team that hasn't ever really been real good and has had quarterback controversy, knows how to deal with that type of big headed player because they did so with Cam Newton, that,
yeah,
maybe they could handle him. And now they've got him in the backup position. Maybe that's their way of handling him. They're saying, you know what, if you don't start becoming a team guy, then the bench is where you're going to be.
yeah. And for some reason, PJ Walker's their starting quarterback. So uh,
Yeah, and
The,
that I don't understand and I don't agree with, but it is what it is. The Panthers have always kind of been like the Browns. They'll do what the Panthers want to do.
yeah. But hey, he beat the Bucks, so I mean, there's something good about that guy, I guess.
If it wasn't just rookie luck.
Yeah, or whatever year he is. And the final team I have that might make the playoffs for the AFC in the AFC are the Chargers. They're on a one-game losing streak, and the Chargers, they're kind of stacked at defense. They have Watt. No, they don't have Watt. They have one of the Watt brothers on offense, I think. But they have K9 on defense. They have uh, Khalil
Tyler
Mack.
Watt, ain't it?
T, one of the Watt brothers. There's
Yeah.
too many. There's three, but there's and but yeah, if you think about it, their defense, they might carry them to the playoffs because they're so skilled at at their defense. Their offense, they have I their quarterback's name skipped my mind. Uh, but the quarterback,
You talking about the Steelers?
no, the Chargers quarterback.
Oh, the Chargers quarterback. Yeah, I have no clue. Herbert,
Justin Herbert,
Justin
yes.
Herbert.
Yeah, he's a little bit agile. He can move around a little bit, not as much as Lamar or Josh Allen, but uh, you know, if they're going to make the playoffs, it's going to be their defense. And last season, uh, it was the final game of the regular season. They were playing against the Raiders, and the scenario was if both teams tied in that game, they'd both make the playoffs. And the Chargers were all at the final seconds. We're all like, no, uh, screw you, Las Vegas, you ain't going, and kicked the game-winning field goal and eliminated the Raiders. So
Hey, that's always going to be the no love lost between the Chargers and Raiders. That's becoming a rivalry now that the Raiders are out in Vegas and not in Oakland, and they actually have a fan base that cares about them now.
yeah, and if the Raiders can get a good thing going with their new head coach, then I wouldn't see why not. They would be in the playoffs every year. Speaking of the AFC West, let's talk about Russell Wilson and the Broncos for a little bit. Uh,
Oh my God.
yes, because everyone thought at the beginning of the season that man, all Denver needed was a quarterback. They got Russell Wilson, $242 million
Man,
guaranteed.
the only people that believed that all the Broncos needed was a quarterback was the fucking Broncos. That's why they went out and got Russell freaking Wilson from Seattle, and he's been exactly what he was the last 3 or 4 years in Seattle, a mediocre at best quarterback. The Broncos
Yeah,
thought they were in a fantasy world. They said, "Here's our dream. This is our guy." Because he was so good 10 years ago, or however long ago it was when he came in the league, he still got it. Let's go and trade everything we got for him. Literally spent all their freaking money on this guy because they thought all we need. Even the Broncos fans knew they needed more than a quarterback. The only ones that thought they only needed the quarterback was the internal organization of the Denver Broncos.
yeah. Uh, I was watching that game week 1 against the Seahawks, and there was like 3 drives in a row where it ended in a fumble recovery inside the red zone for Denver, where Seattle recovered it, and that was just shocking because Russell Wilson was getting beat by Geno Smith and the Seattle Seahawks in Seattle.
Right,
And
absolutely.
yeah,
Well, Geno Smith sat behind Russell Wilson for how many years? So he learned from. I mean, Russell Wilson used to be one of the greatest quarterbacks in the league, but
yeah,
not so much anymore.
Yeah, and when Russell Wilson went out on the field, Seattle fans were booing him, and uh, and people were like saying, "Well, come on, he got you a Super Bowl ring." Yeah, but he also threw an interception on in a crucial moment of Super Bowl 48 against the Patriots. No, that was Super Bowl 49. But I
I
mean,
mean,
yeah,
I honestly think that Russell Wilson, this is his Tom Brady tour. I mean, let's call it what it is. Tom Brady said, I want to retire, but I don't want to retire with the same team I started with, so I'm going to go to the Bucks, and I'm going to play with the Bucks, and I'm going to win the championship with the Bucks.
and not
Russell
only did he
Wilson
win,
went, I want to retire, but I want to retire somewhere besides Seattle because Seattle no longer loves me, and I need to be loved. And so he took his talents over to Denver, thinking he was going to win Denver a championship. Unfortunately for him, he will probably never win Denver a championship, and he will retire. Just like
yeah,
Peyton Manning retired, the only difference, Peyton Manning actually led him to a championship. Russell Wilson isn't Peyton Manning. I'm sorry, Denver.
yeah, no, Russell Wilson is not even close to Peyton Manning. Um, but yeah, when like you said, he's like the Tom Brady of wanting to move teams and not retire with the same team. But the only difference is that Tom Brady won a Super Bowl with Tampa Bay in Tampa Bay for the first. That was the first time in NFL history that a team has won the Super Bowl in their own stadium, and um, and Raymond James Stadium has this pirate ship on their stadium, and Buccaneer fans were a little bit disappointed that the NFL said, "Well, this is supposed to be a neutral site. You can't fire the cannons every time they scored." But after the game, they didn't care. They let them score. They let them fire those cannons because their team won. I mean, if it was me and I was the NFL commissioner, I'd be like, heck, it's your stadium. Do what you want. I mean, you're the first team to ever host a Super Bowl.
Honestly, yeah, honestly, as an NFL fan, I wish the commissioner would step back on things like that and go, you know what? If you host the Super Bowl in your stadium because you're lucky enough to get to the Super Bowl when it's at your stadium, then by God, if you have cannons you want to fire, fucking fire them motherfuckers every 5 minutes. I don't care. Like, if you want to fire it at every time out, fire it. You made the Super Bowl in your stadium. Celebrate
Yeah,
that shit.
I mean,
Doesn't
most of
matter
those.
win, lose, or draw. Celebrate that shit. You're playing the Super Bowl at home. Fuck what
Yeah,
everybody else thinks of this neutral site stuff.
yeah. And most of those fans were probably Buccaneer fans because it's in Tampa. It was in Tampa.
Right? Exactly. So they're like, why are we not firing the cannons or scoring touchdowns?
Yeah, but
Made no sense to me to do that like that with it on national television. Like, that's just the cannons are part of the stadium. They've got to be fired. Okay, you can't fire them when you score a touchdown. How about this? Fire them when you score a touchdown, but you also have to fire them when the other team scores as well.
yeah, tell them that,
So
and then
that then it is neutral. So that it is neutral. Both teams are getting the same celebration.
yeah, that's the problem with the NFL. How they treat their rules and everything. For example, roughing the passer, that's gotten out of hand. But but at the NFL,
That's become, let's put the passer in a bubble and not let him even get close to getting hit.
yeah.
Like,
Well,
let's put flags on the quarterback and play tackle football except for the quarterback. Only the quarterback. You have to pull his flag. You can't tackle him.
yeah, or like don't have the quarterback put pads on. Just put a helmet on him, like 7-on-7.
Right? Or do like
Okay,
the AFL, A7FL, and don't have pads at all.
yeah, don't they use flags in the A7FL?
No, it's full contact tackle.
Wow, so it's like rugby on steroids.
Well, it's basically, if you think about how you grew up playing football in elementary school, after school, you didn't play with helmets and pads. You went out with your friends and threw the ball in an empty field and went and tackled people and hit people. You didn't have pads and helmets on, and that's why the A7FL went the way they went and went no pads, no helmets, because they wanted to go back to the football everybody grew up playing. I mean, when you played football on the schoolyard, you played tackle football even though the teachers didn't want you to, and you didn't have pads and helmets on.
When, when they, oh, that reminds me, when the A7FL season comes around, and if I have time, I might have to come up there and see a game that you're commentating to see what it's like, because that sounds dangerous and interesting.
It really is. Come on out to Vegas. I mean, hell, Las Vegas is great. Um, and you could probably even ride out there with me if you needed to. So if you could get out to Albuquerque, even you could probably get a ride out there.
I mean, I got a car. It's a pretty good car, but
Right.
anyways. So moving on to the NFC, I only have three teams that I think are not gonna make the playoffs, and those teams are the Packers. They're on a 4-game losing streak. The Lions, 5-game losing streak, and the Buccaneers. Yeah, I said the Buccaneers, 3-game losing streak. Like I said, the Packers not as hot as they have been. They're
And,
I'm
and the
Rogers has
Buccaneers are probably saying, thank you very much, Giselle Bundchen, for screwing us out of a freaking Super Bowl because you left your husband when he came back to play football because he's an arrogant son of a bitch and doesn't care about his family.
and I've heard rumors that Antonio Brown's been sleeping with Giselle, and
That would
um,
not surprise me. Go Anthony Brown.
yeah, and I also heard he made a shirt out of that picture of him and Giselle hugging,
He
where he
did.
has.
He did. He did. It's great. I love it. Anthony Brown is the top goat of trolls because he has done nothing but troll Tom Brady since they've split up, and now he's probably trolling him even harder in what used to be Tom Brady's bed. Just saying.
I mean, Tom Brady tried to help the guy. I mean, he brought him into his home, tried to mentor him and everything. And what does he get? He gets
And then and Anthony Brown said, "Thank you for bringing me into your home with your beautiful wife. Now I will screw her very much. Thank you."
Imagine during Christmas time, where Tom Brady goes and visits his kids, and his kids tell him that their stepdad Antonio Brown got him these kind of gifts.
Oh Lord. And this is probably all stuff going through Tom Brady's head, which is why Tom Brady is on the slide he is on, which I'm sorry, I'm laughing at, but it serves his ass right because he let a beautiful woman walk out of his life just so that he could play more football when he's already made God knows how much money off football, enough to support the family for the rest of their lives. And he could be a dad, and he decided I don't want to be a dad, I want to play football.
Yeah, um, I've seen this YouTube video where this guy was doing a skit to where he was playing as Tom Brady and says that he's going to retire, and then it shows him at home, shows the kids running around, and his wife is all over him saying, "Tom Brady, can you do the laundry? Can you do the dishes?" and all this other house chores. And then he says, "I'm coming back to the NFL. I can't handle this."
Well, that's because all he knows how to do is play football. If he had to do house chores, he wouldn't know what to do.
Yeah.
But
And
I'm sorry, when you've had 20 years in the league and made millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars, and your wife has supported you for the 13 of those 20 years, saying, "Yeah, play football," and asks you to retire, and you retire to take care of your family, and then 40 days later go, "You know what? No, I'm going to go back to playing football." You get what you deserve. Like, your wife left you because you decided to play football instead of being a family man. I understand wanting to live your dream, that's your passion, blah 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 blah. But
but you have seven.
didn't you just do that for 20 years and win? Thank you. And win 7 Super Bowl rings? Is that not enough for you to say, "Okay, I'll step aside and I'll be a dad. I'll raise my kids. I'll support my wife in her dream now so she can go out and make millions of dollars because I've already done it"?
it's not like he has another job waiting for him anyway. Because when he
You
retires,
arrogant
Fox.
son of a bitch.
Because when he retires, he already has a job with the NFL Fox Sports commentating
Right.
games. Yeah,
Right. So he's still going to be involved to a point, but he'll have more home time to be with the family. And he couldn't even accept that. He couldn't say, "Yes, I'll be a family man after 20 years of doing what I love to do. I'll finally step back and be a family man and let you go live your dream now and support you in your dream like you supported me in mine." No, I'm going to be an arrogant bastard and go back to playing my passion because I love football more than I love my family and my wife, my kids.
and
Like
be-
it just
and because
doesn't
of
make no
that,
sense.
I saw somewhere where he admits that the divorce has affected his playing, and
Right,
and
absolutely.
yeah,
He's been denying the only one that's been denying that has been him up till this point. Like everybody knew that in the back of his head that was what was playing a role in it. Now everybody's going, okay, cool, it's final. Now maybe we can go out and win games and still make the playoffs. Well, I'm sorry, even if you still go out and win games and make the playoffs, your road to the Super Bowl is very thin because there's a lot of teams out there that are more consistent than you that can beat you. And I will say at this point, the Dallas Cowboys are even one of those teams. So,
speaking of teams that are more consistent, so the teams I have that are going to make the playoffs in NFC are the Eagles, the only undefeated team in the NFL on a 7-game win streak.
oh,
Yeah, the Cowboys on a 2-game win streak. And speaking about the Cowboys, they've done pretty well with Cooper Rush when Prescott was out. Uh, um, he kind of surprised
I
me a
loved
little
it.
bit. Yeah,
Yeah,
he,
as a Cowboys fan, when I saw Dak Prescott go down, I literally texted Glenn. Glenn said, "What do you see this season being like 2-8?" I said, "Fuck 2-8, like 0-10. We're not winning a freaking game if he's out. Like it's not happening this season. Cooper Rush ain't gonna win a game for us, and Dak's gonna take 2 to 3 to get back in the rhythm. Like, no, we're not winning a game this season. I'm sorry." And that's what I said to him. And then Cooper Rush comes out and leads us to 4 or 5 victories. And I'm like, oh my God, we're still in it. And now my biggest concern is, will Jerry Jones finally decide to do what he needs to do and what's been needed to be done, if you ask me, for at least a year now, and freaking bench Ezekiel Elliott and let Tony Pollard run the fucking football?
I don't think he's gonna I don't think he's gonna bench Elliott. I think Elliott's
Tony
too good.
Pollard is definitely Tony Pollard is definitely the future of the Dallas Cowboys running game. Ezekiel
Yeah,
Elliott was the future until he tore his knee up. Now, since he's had so many injuries, they could trade him and get more out of him than they're going to get out of him on the field. The only
yeah,
reason he's doing as good as he is because he has Tony Pollard back there half the time with him.
yeah. It's kind of like a Alvin Kamara and the other Saints running back situation where they had two good running backs, and now that Ezekiel Elliott's hurt, Pollard uh, is in charge of the run game for Dallas. I mean, like you
Well,
said, he's
and that's what I'm saying. He's Pollard's so much better. Like, and now that Ezekiel is hurt, they don't have a choice but to let Pollard run.
yeah,
Let's. And I'm not going to say that Pollard is the greatest quarterback or the greatest running back of all time, but I would not be surprised to see this team put themselves on Pollard's back and this become the running team that it used to be, and watch Pollard run them into the playoffs, deep into the playoffs, and possibly close to the Super Bowl, if not to the Super Bowl. Like Ezekiel Elliott's out of the way. Now Pollard can shine. And if Pollard shines, why would Jerry Jones go, something's got to give here? You either figure
yeah,
out a 2 running back system or you let the one that's not producing go. The one that's produced more injuries than yards on the field in the past 2 seasons.
yeah. Jerry Jones has all this money for Dallas, and they're not really producing anything. So if I was Jerry
Well,
Jones, like you said,
Jerry Jones is part of the problem. I think, honestly, I think Jerry Jones needs to step his old ass aside and let Stephen Jones take over, because Stephen Jones looks at numbers, looks at stats, looks at the way things are going, and goes, "Okay, this is what's going to be best for us as a business, not just as a team, as a business
is Stephen
moving
Jones'
forward."
son?
Yeah, Stephen Jones is Jerry's son.
Okay,
and
and
and Steven has been in the background for the last 10 or 15 years, basically running the show anyway. He just hasn't been giving full autonomy from his father. Like any decision he wants to make, he still has to run through Mr. Jerry. Like if Jerry would just step to the side and say, "Okay, you know what, you're smart, you run this team the way you think it needs to run, you make those decisions, I fully trust you to do that, you don't have to ask me," I think the Dallas Cowboys would be winning Super Bowls, honestly,
yeah,
because the team would
they
be constructed so much differently. We would not have Ezekiel Elliott anymore. We would have gotten rid of Ezekiel Elliott after last year's failure.
and we rewind to last season's playoffs when they got beat by the Niners. If they if if they would have let Pollard run the ball more than Zeke, things might have changed. And
Oh yeah,
yeah,
yeah, and that's what I'm saying. Like I think after that game right there, if it was in Steven's hands, Steven would have put Ezekiel's head on the trading block and said, "What are you going to offer us for this badass running back that we no longer want?" And they would have
and
gotten first round, second round, and third round picks from some teams. I'm almost sure of it. Like they would have gotten 3 picks: a first rounder, second rounder, and a third rounder, or a first
and
rounder, second rounder, and a player, or something. Like because Ezekiel's got that much leverage with him
yeah,
and what he can do if he can stay healthy. The thing is, Dallas, as a Dallas fan, Dallas can't sit here and hope that Ezekiel can stay healthy because the last 2 seasons he's done nothing but get injured.
yeah, and guarantee one of those teams that would have tried to get a trade for him would have been the Browns. And if
Oh
Cleveland,
yeah,
yeah,
and
and
don't get me
because
wrong, I love Ezekiel Elliott as a running back, but I would have laughed and loved to see him go to the Browns at this point because he's not doing anything. When you go to reality, he's not doing anything good for the team other than in the community. Like he's out there in Dallas doing good things, but he's not doing nothing good on the field.
yeah, and so continuing on with the NFC teams that I think are going to make the playoffs. The Giants on a 1 game losing streak. The Vikings surprisingly on a 5 game win streak. Seahawks 3 game win streak, and the Niners on a 1 game win streak. So the Giants are surprising this season. They got a new head coach. They beat the Packers in London, which, by the way, that was the first time the Packers played in London and lost. Um, I think the Giants have their guy at head coach because he's uh, built up a new environment uh, in New York. Well, New
Oh, I
Jersey, technically.
absolutely agree with that.
Yeah, because I
I
mean,
absolutely agree with that. The only question is Daniel Jones their quarterback, or do they need to go a different route?
I if they keep with Daniel Jones with this new head coach, I don't see why not. They could be Super Bowl contenders in the next few years. But
Absolutely, I agree with that.
if Daniel Jones stays healthy and continues to be smart with the ball, then the Giants could be like they were when they played against the Patriots in that Super Bowl where they ended their undefeated season. And the Vikings are surprisingly the number 1 team in the NFC North, which he's probably not watching, but my condolences to Coach Zimmer because he lost his son, which Mike Zimmer was the former Vikings head coach, which um, the Vikings got a heck of a trade deal from the Lions. They got T.J. Hawkinson at tight end, which improves their passing game. I don't know what the Lions were thinking about trading away their tight end, but you know, Lions do as Lions do, just as Cleveland does.
Yep, pretty much. And I mean, maybe they've got somebody else that they think is going to be a better tight end in the long run than Hawkinson was for them. But I mean, that's a hell of a pickup for the Vikings.
Yeah, yeah, it's the same with the 49ers. They got a heck of a good running back from Carolina.
Yeah, what was Carolina thinking? Getting rid of McCaffrey.
Yeah, I don't know. That's a not a good. That's not a
Like,
smart move right there. Like, what are you gonna do for a
it
running
made
game?
no sense. Yeah, it made no sense at all. That was their only guy that had any at all threat at running the ball, and they just got rid of it. Your quarterback can't run. PJ Walker don't have the feet to run. He could barely walk.
He, and he was a third string quarterback. Now all of a sudden starter.
Right, right. Yeah, absolutely. Like that guy ain't gonna be your roll out of the pocket, run pass option, triple threat quarterback. Like that's not your guy there.
Like, Carolina screwed up a lot this season. They well, not screwed up. They got rid of their head coach Matt Rule. I mean, he wasn't really a great fit for Carolina. At Baylor, he was, but that's college football.
I was
And
gonna say he's a great fit in college football, but not in the NFL.
yeah, and then they got rid of. Well, they switched out their quarterback situation when their interim head coach took over with PJ Walker. You know, props to him. They beat the Bucks, only allowing a field goal. But um, yeah, the Panthers are going to tank this season. Which,
Yes, absolutely.
if they make the playoffs, it's going to be a very
It,
yeah. The Panthers are
yeah, it'll be a
just
very, very, very ugly first round exit for the Panthers in the wild card round, I believe. Like if
yeah,
they even make the wild card round, it'll be a very ugly exit because they will have to play a team that may only be one above them in the rankings, but will be 10 times better than them on the field.
yeah. Which I should have put the Panthers down as one of the teams that would sink because I guess I forgot to put them down. But yeah, no, the Panthers are gonna tank this season. uh, and the Seahawks, I mean, they got a good quarterback. I mean, Geno Smith, like you said, is set behind Russell Wilson for a few years, and he was tearing it up against the Broncos week one. I think it was 7 for 7 passing at one point. Uh, yeah, Pete
I
Carroll
mean,
is. Go
and
ahead.
Pete Carroll's got I mean, they've got something there with Geno Smith anyway because Geno Smith was in the Big 12 when he was in college. He was at West Virginia under Dana Holgerson, um,
Yeah,
who used to be a defensive coordinator or offensive coordinator at Oklahoma State at one point, became the head coach of West Virginia and now the head coach of the University of Houston. Um, Geno Smith, when he was at West Virginia, this guy can't only just play quarterback. This guy can come in and play running back if he needs to, and he can play wide receiver. Like this is literally a triple threat athlete. He's not just a quarterback; he's an athlete. If if Carroll honestly needed to line him up at wide receiver and put somebody else at quarterback that is up and coming, that's got great talent that he wants to give a shot, Geno Smith could easily move over to wide receiver and catch passes and blow by the defense and score touchdowns.
yeah, and um, moving on to the 49ers, the reasons why I have them maybe making the playoffs are if Jimmy Garoppolo could be be smarter with the ball and uh, Christian McCaffrey. I mean, as soon as McCaffrey showed up in San Francisco, he was already playing against the Chiefs. They lost that game, but they wanted to get him up and running, which who can blame him? Is Christian McCaffrey is better than the running backs that the Niners had. So, and also Garoppolo has this extra motivation on for every game that he wins, they'll pay him a bonus amount of money, which I don't know how much that is, but they'll give him a bonus paycheck.
Well, he's
And
earning those bonuses then, that's for sure.
yeah, yeah. He when Lance was at the helm, Garoppolo was the highest paid backup quarterback, and now that Lance is out for the rest of the season, it's all Jimmy Garoppolo at the helm for the Niners, which he took them to the Super Bowl a few years ago against the Chiefs, but then they blew a 10-point lead in the second half, which not which is not Jimmy's happy moments, considering he sat behind Tom Brady for the first part of his career, and I don't know what the Patriots were thinking about trading Garoppolo for Hoyer, because I thought Garoppolo was the next franchise QB for New England, but it's whatever. So the teams that could make the playoffs in the NFC, I have the Commanders which they're on a 3-game win streak. I say the Commanders because Heineke is a decent quarterback. Kind of surprises me a little bit. Even the Commanders head coach, uh, Ron something, I forgot his last name, but he even admitted that the quarterback situation was one of the reasons why they weren't winning games. So Heineke comes in, does a decent job. They beat the Colts by 1 point, but a win's a win. If I'm the Commanders, I'll stick with Heineke for a little bit to see what happens with him. And
What's
then
your
the next,
thoughts on Dan Snyder wanting to all of a sudden looking at possibly selling the Commanders? Do you think he's selling the Commanders, selling the whole entire team, or is he looking to get rid of a majority share to bring in like a partner, or a minority share, like 49%, to bring in a partner to try to make him look better in the media's eyes, like somebody who's of minority or a woman who might want to buy in and be a partner of the Commanders? Like, which way do you think he's actually trying to go with that?
I think he's trying to get rid of the Commanders in general, like just sell the whole franchise, because uh, I remember, well, there was the I remember where he said that the Commander at the time they were called the Redskins, and he said, we're not going to change the name. I'm not going to sell the franchise, and all of a sudden, oh, we're going to change our name because apparently the Redskin name is racist, and
Right
uh,
now, it's changed twice. It was the Washington football team, and now it's the Washington Commanders. Like,
yeah,
and that's what I was hearing this morning on some of the talk shows on TV on ESPN. One of the guys, and I can't remember who it was, said, it's like now we can't believe anything coming out of his mouth. So is he really actually going to try to sell the team at all? Because he lied about not changing the name and changed the name. So is this, I'm going to try to sell the Commanders, a ploy to try to get some media attention or get his name to look better in the, oh, well, now he's looking to sell it so we won't harp on him as much type of deal.
yeah. Um, but if he sells the team at all, it's going to be because of those reasons that well, they're not the Redskins anymore, and they're
Yeah,
kind
and,
of
and the reason why all NFL owners want him out of the league anyway. Like,
yeah, um,
numerous owners have went on record to say, we do not want Dan Snyder in this league anymore. We do not want him to be a part of this league anymore.
and,
He needs to go away.
And I wouldn't be surprised if the new owner came in and says, "Hey, we're going to change it back to the Redskins. I don't care what anyone says. We'll get new sponsors if they. We'll get new sponsors. We'll get new people to be with us. But we're going to change our name back to the Redskins. I wouldn't blame the new owner one bit if that happens.
Oh, I would love it if that happened. Like, I
I
mean,
would love it too.
all these name changes that have happened from the Redskins to the Commanders, the freaking Indians to the Guardians, the what were they? The Hornets to the Pelicans or the New Orleans, whatever they were, to the
Yeah,
Pelicans. I think they were the New Orleans Hornets there for a while. To the Pelicans because somehow the Hornets or whatever their name ended up being. It was the Hornets and it was something else. Now it's the Pelicans because the Hornets actually moved to Charleston. They became the Charleston Hornets. But that's NBA basketball. But yeah, that just, I mean, the name changes don't make sense. Um, I don't see how Redskin is offensive to anybody except for
snowflakes.
your pansies, your snowflakes. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Like, I mean, I'm Native American. I embrace my Native American tradition. Okay, Chieftains, which is the Seminole, Oklahoma team, the Seminole Chieftains, the Tecumseh Savages, the Shawnee Wolves, uh, you know, like the Redskins. Like, I'll tell you, I'm an Indian. Fuck yeah, we're savages. Fuck with us, we will fucking scalp you, motherfucker. Like, try me. You know, like how is that offensive? If you're an Indian, you should look at somebody and go, "Yeah, I'm a savage. Try me and find out."
well, speaking of the
Yeah, I'm
name
a warrior.
Redskins,
Try me and find out. I mean, why is warrior offensive? Why is savage offensive? Why is redskin offensive? Why is any of that offensive?
and speaking of Redskins, the my Union High School in Tulsa changed their name from the Redskins to the Red Hawks. If you didn't know that,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And that's another. I'm like, why? What's offensive about that? That
yeah,
is just another term for an Indian. It's not a racist term. It's not like dropping the N word and getting fired from college football or having to retire from college football for dropping the N word. Like, it's not a racist thing at all. Like, the people who think that are pansies.
yeah. They're the ones that are not, Native American. They're not
Yeah,
used
yeah,
to.
yeah. It's the white boy crackers who are offended by the name Redskin. Like, what the fuck? Come on now.
Yeah, it's it's like someone going to a different country and saying like what you're doing is wrong when those people know what they're doing.
Right, right. Yeah, exactly. Like, I mean, it doesn't make no damn sense. So
Yeah.
I hope he does. Honestly, back to Day Insider, I hope he does sell it. I hope he sells the team to somebody who has a pair of cojones that'll change the name back to Redskins or hell, make them the Washington Savages. Fuck it.
That would just light the NFL on fire.
Right? I mean, you
I
got
mean,
the Kansas City Chiefs. I'm surprised they ain't been forced to change their name yet.
or the Atlanta Braves in MLB.
Yeah,
I mean, they got.
right?
I mean, the Kansas City Chiefs fans at their games they do the tomahawk chant,
Yeah,
and
I
same
know. It's the tomahawk.
and
Right.
Like same with the Braves. They did the tomahawk chant.
Like if anybody's gonna be disrespected by that, it should be the Indians, not the white crackers who give a shit. Like, who don't even know the Indian heritage. Like, I'm sorry. I embrace my Indian heritage. Now, if I'm embracing it wrongly to some Native Americans, I'm sorry. But the way I embrace it is I kind of joke about it. And I'm like, yeah, You know what? The Tecumseh Savages from Tecumseh, Oklahoma. You know why there's the Tecumseh Savages? Because there's a fucking bunch of savage Indians that live in fucking Tecumseh. You mess with them, they will fuck you up. They don't care. So they are savages. That's, I mean, the Indian tribes around that area, they're savage. They don't care if you mess with them, they will mess you up. It's not a
Yeah,
disrespectful thing. They're fighters, they're warriors, they're savages, they're, you fill in the blank with the adjective that you want to use for fighter. I mean, it is what it is. It's no more than just an adjective. It's not a racial and shouldn't be made or looked at as a racial thing. Like the N word is racial, and I understand that. Like that's for reason, right? Nobody says
yeah.
that and keeps their job. That's for good reason. That is disrespectful. But
Now,
to say, oh hey, there's a redskin walking down the street, most Indians are gonna look at you and go, huh? What'd you say?
yeah,
Oh, there's a redskin. Oh, okay. So they wouldn't even know what to think. They'd be like, huh?
yeah. But
I don't think they'd be disrespected by it. They'd just be thrown off by it. They'd be like, huh? What?
all right, getting back more on topic here. That was a great discussion, by the way. um, so other teams I have making the playoffs that might make the playoffs in the NFC are the Bears. They're on a one-game losing streak. The Falcons, which by the way, the Falcons are in first place in the NFC South, and they have a one-game winning streak. The Saints one-game win streak. The Rams and the Cardinals both have a one-game losing streak. Now the Bears, the reason why they might make the playoffs is because of Justin Fields. It's a quarterback game for teams like the Bears, the Cardinals, and the Ravens. It's you shut the quarterback down, they don't have an offense. I mean, yeah, they can try to pass the ball and run it with their backups, but I mean, it's a quarterback game for those teams. If a defense learns how to crash the pocket and take him down, then maybe um, there'll be some defense. Then maybe they won't make the playoffs because defenses will learn how to take. I'm sorry, I'm reading this comment by Vladimir. Oh my gosh, Vladimir. LOL me. You know, it's the words just modern Indians people. Yeah,
And now,
imagine just
Colin, you have been introduced to one of my trolls. This is Vladimir Putin on YouTube, and he likes to troll and he points out good things, and he's a good guy. I've actually come to enjoy him in my chats. But yeah, LOL. Maybe don't use the word savage to describe modern Indian peoples. I'm dead. I just said LOL. It is what it is. I mean,
yeah.
I was just trying to prove a point that savage shouldn't be looked at as a racist slur of any kind. So,
Yeah, that was a great comment. I loved it. Anyways, the Falcons, they're surprisingly number one in NFC South. You know, Brady's one of the reasons why the Falcons are number one in the South because Brady's falling off. He's starting to fall off a cliff.
he needs to just jump off that damn thing already.
maybe, maybe if he gets in more of a groove later on in the season, they could be more dangerous. But yeah, the Falcons aren't in control of the South, but they have a one game advantage. I hear Mariota killing. Mariota. Oh, yeah, he's another scrambled quarterback. Again, it's a quarterback game for the Falcons. You shut down the quarterback, they don't have an offense. So that's my thoughts on that. And then the Saints. Uh, the Saints. Uh, I mean, they're an all right team. They
Have a
have.
good night, Vladimir. Thanks for coming in.
Yeah, thanks, Vladimir. Love that comment. Anyways, um, surprisingly, Winston is doing a better job with the Saints than he was with the Bucks. Because I mean, maybe it's a system, maybe it's the coaches. I don't know, but Winston's not doing that bad with the Saints. And technically, the Saints have two quarterbacks, Winston and Hill. But
Holy hell, Rapist is still in the fucking league. I didn't know that. Oh my
as
bad.
far
I
as
mean
I'm
Jameis. My bad.
oh, you're good. I was like, yeah, Taysom Hill's still in the league. As far as I know, he is.
No, I'm talking about Rapist Wilson,
Oh,
quarterback.
okay. And for the Rams, um, I mean, they were a Super Bowl winning team last season, but I don't know what's going
Winston,
on
my
with
bad.
the Rams this year. Uh, Stafford has not been great as he has been. Uh, the only two people on the Rams that are going to make that team work are Stafford and Cup. If the Rams didn't have Cup, they don't have a passing game.
Yeah,
And
I agree with that.
yeah, and the Arizona Cardinals on one game losing streak. Again, it's a quarterback game for the Cardinals. Apparently, in the offseason, the Cardinals have gotten on to Kyler Murray saying, hey, stop playing video games and study your playbook. And uh, so if the Cardinals get into the playoffs, it's going to be because of Kyler Murray and DeAndre Hopkins. All right, now that does it for the segment of sink, swim, or float, and I want to highlight some quarterbacks in the league that are uh, quite interesting to watch. Before we get into the college football segment here, for the Commanders, it's Wentz started the season. He's 144 for 232, 1,489 yards, 62% completion rating, 10 touchdowns, and 6 interceptions. And Heineke, when he came in, he's 43 for 64, 480 yards, 67 percentage rating, completion rating, 3 touchdowns, and 2 interceptions. Uh, I mean, Wentz was good in Philadelphia, but he got benched, and Heineke is playing. Like I said earlier, I think the Commanders should stick with Heineke and see how things go. Another quarterback matchup that seems intriguing are is the Colts quarterbacks, Ryan Tannehill and Sam Ellinger. Uh, Tannehill is 203 for 297, 2,008 yards, 68 percentage completion rating percentage, 9 touchdowns and 9 interceptions. Uh, sorry, there's quite a few people coming in here for some reason. I don't know why. Anyways, um, and and Sam Ellinger, 17 for 23, 201 yards, 73.9 percentage completion rating, 0 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. The funny thing about Ryan Tannehill, the funny thing about Matt Ryan, excuse me, I mean, is that he's been before he got benched, he was the starting quarterback for the Colts for 28 weeks and 3 days. It seems like he cannot
Eh,
escape the 28-3 ratio.
nope, because didn't he lose to New England 28-3 as well?
Yeah, in the Super Bowl, that was the first 28-3 thing that happened.
Yep.
So, it's like a curse that's with him. He can't escape it.
Yeah, yeah.
And
I think Sam Ellinger is the future of the Colts, if
really,
I must say so myself. He was a hell of a quarterback at University of Texas. He was a 3 or 4 year starter there at Texas University before being drafted by the Colts in the NFL. Um, I believe that. I mean, if he's given a chance and he meshes well with the coach and the offensive system, that he will be the future of the Colts. Just because of his talent level, once he's given the ability to show that level of talent, say the starting QB goes down and gets injured and he has to step in for a 4 or 5 game stretch, I could see him leading the Colts no matter what that 4 or 5 game stretch is on 4 or 5 wins, just like Cooper Rush did with the Dallas Cowboys. And nobody saw it
yeah,
coming, but it happened.
but
I think Sam Ellinger is that type of backup quarterback that, I mean, if he's given the option and he's given the chance, he could take somebody's starting job somewhere in this league.
well, in my opinion, I mean, you give Ellinger a few more chances. I'm not. I mean, I'm not quite sold on Ellinger because some quarterbacks are great in college, some and they make it to the league and they're not, like Johnny Manziel, for example.
Right, right, absolutely.
But give him a few more chances and see how it goes. So I highlighted Brady on Tom Brady on here because the Bucks are on a 3 game losing streak. Brady this season so far 224 for 340, 2,267 yards, 65% completion rating, 9 touchdowns and 1 interception. And in the 3 game losing streak, he's 843 yards passing, 1,000 hold on, 843 yards passing in a 3 game losing streak. And before the 3 game losing streak, he threw for 1,414 yards and no interceptions. So, um, Brady's going to have a down year this year, I think, because of the divorce and how that's going to play a factor. And so, we'll see how that goes for Brady. I don't see him retiring in the middle of the season, but I think the Bucks will get it together. Maybe a um, 2 or 3 seed if they do well from here on out.
Oh, so
But
you think they'll get it together before the end of the season?
yeah,
Not
yeah,
after Tom Brady retires for the 100th time?
yeah. I think they'll get it together at some point. Brady's gonna, because like we said before, he puts football over his family, hence the divorce. So,
So now
um,
he ain't got a wife or a family to worry about, so now he can focus fully on football. So you think now they're going to be the powerhouse that they should be?
if Brady gets his mind right and everything, because if he doesn't get his mind right and he starts playing terrible, and then the Bucks might be like, okay, well Brady, something's going on with you, so we're gonna put in other guy, so
Yeah.
because you're not playing.
Step one to Brady getting his mind right, I think, is getting the image of Anthony Brown screwing his ex-wife out of his head first.
Yeah. All right, so that's what I have for the NFL. Let's move on towards one of the more entertaining football. It's college football, Division 1. So I have a few games highlighted on here. I have Bama versus Tennessee highlighted, Ohio State and Penn State, Oklahoma State and Kansas State, and the big one, Tennessee versus Georgia. So the Vols beat the Vols beat the Crimson Tide for like the first time in the Saban era at Neyland Stadium, and Bryce Young went 35 for 52, 455 yards, 2 touchdowns, and no interceptions. And Hooker, the quarterback for Tennessee, went 21 for 30, 385 yards, passing 5 touchdowns and 1 interception. Uh, in that game, Tennessee took off in the first quarter. They scored 21 points in the first quarter and uh, really lit a fuse in that game. They were making a statement like, "We don't care if you're Bama. We don't care about how well you've been. We're gonna end this drought and we're gonna beat you by by a field goal." Because that's what happened. Their kicker kicked a knuckleball field goal and it went through the goalpost and everyone's
Yeah, that was the biggest knuckleball field goal I've ever seen on national television. Like that ball had no float to it at all. It was just kind of like whatever way it
yeah
wanted to go. Luckily, it went the right way and went through the posts to win the game. But a lot of what's happened with Tennessee, credit has got to be given where credit's due, and that credit has to go to Josh Heupel and his mentality and the way he coaches and what he's brought to that Tennessee volunteer atmosphere. He's brought that atmosphere of we can be a dominant team and that mindset of we can be a dominant team back into that community and back into that stadium.
yeah and the college playoff rankings came out for the first time a few days ago, and they have Tennessee at number one in the playoff rankings. So I found that quite interesting because, um, I mean, sure, Tennessee and Georgia look good on paper, but uh, I still think Georgia's the better team against 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 Tennessee. But
Well, I think
uh,
it's just a fact of the college football playoff committee at this point is giving the respect to Tennessee that Tennessee has shown they deserve. I mean, you just wiped out a national powerhouse for the last 20 years and did it for the
yeah,
first time, I believe, in what, 25 years since like 1997 that they had beaten Alabama there at home. So, I mean, that's a big thing. And that, again, it circles back to Josh Heupel and the mentality he's brought back to that school. Like they were in dire straits of needing to change things around before he came in, and he's come in, and in 2 or 3 years, and now they're a number one team looking at a college football playoff and a possible championship.
yeah, and after they won that game, the Tennessee fan base rushed the field and took down the goalpost and threw it in the lake, the river. And I
Yep.
saw somewhere on Facebook that someone put their goalpost as a landmark on Google Maps.
Yep, it actually was. It is a landmark in the river on Google Maps. And they also not only did they tear it down and throw it in the river, but then they also all came together and donated the $125,000 that it took to replace that goalpost too.
Yeah, because they started a GoFundMe for it, and
Yep, and
not
all the
only
fans chipped in and all the fans contributed.
yeah, not only did they take the goalpost, but I saw that someone took a piece of their end zone turf because a square of it was missing.
Oh, there were several spots where there was turf messed up and turf missing because of all the people that came on the field. The grounds crew for Tennessee actually said it took them a full 6 days of working that field day in and day out before the next game to get that field back to looking the way it did for the next game on that next Saturday against Middle Tennessee State or whatever whoever it was that they played Tennessee Martin.
Yeah,
Like
Tennessee
the
Martin.
field, the field looked immaculate against Tennessee Martin, like nothing had happened. The field crew said that took them 6 days of day and night because of how much foot traffic was on that field. It took them 6 days of day and night working to get that field back in immaculate condition.
Yeah,
So
and I don't
kudos to the grounds team there too as well, because I don't know if I would have been able to pull that off and get that field looking that good again after that many people were on it and that much damage was done.
yeah, I don't blame him for rushing the field anyway. You just beat Bama. I mean,
Yeah,
who wouldn't
no. Yeah,
the field?
absolutely. Yeah, yeah.
And Ohio State versus Penn State. Now, Ohio State won that game 44-31. But the thing about this game was that Penn State was up 14-13 at halftime. And Ohio State's defense was basically took over because because Ohio State scored 31 points in the second half, while Penn State scored 17 points. I mean, they were playing at Penn State. Ohio State's defense just snapped, like something clicked,
Oh
and
yeah.
their their defensive tackle or D end, whoever he was on the D line, number 44, JT Tuimalo, whatever his name is for Ohio State. He had 2 sacks and 2 interceptions. One of those interceptions went for a touchdown. So
Yeah. I was gonna say, didn't they? They wrapped up there. I think they said they racked off 21 points in 4 minutes of play in the fourth
yeah,
quarter.
yeah.
That's just that you don't ever see that happen in college football
I
ever.
mean, I had my doubts about Ohio State being number 2, but I mean the way they
Not
played,
anymore.
the way their defense showed up in the second half, like major clutch mode, that was that was something. I mean, they weren't going to take any crap anymore from Penn State. I mean, I don't think Ohio State is national championship material, but um, it'll be quite interesting.
I don't know. I don't know that coach they've got there, John Day or Josh Day or
Ryan
whatever
Day,
his name is, Ryan Day. He's a hell of a coach and he's got a hell of a mind to him and a hell of a schematics that he's put in place there. And he brought in, of course, the new defensive coordinator that they have this year was the defensive coordinator at Oklahoma State. They brought in Knowles from Oklahoma State to be the defensive coordinator. Paid him basically the same money he was going to get at Oklahoma State. Uh, Knowles took the opportunity to go to Ohio State and took some players with him. And even those players have impacted Ohio State and made impacts. So, I mean, he knew what he was doing when he came there. He knew what he wanted on his coaching staff, and he's starting to build it. National championship material this year, no. But in a year or two, I would say most definitely if they keep it up.
However, I do think it would be interesting to see an Ohio State in Michigan national championship game since we've seen Georgia and Alabama. I mean, that would be the national championship to end all national championships to see Buckeyes versus Wolverines. I mean, because
Yeah,
that's
but
what,
here lately, the Wolverines haven't had much of a number on the Buckeyes, so that may not be
yeah,
as good of a game as it looks like on paper.
yeah, because Harbaugh hasn't won against Ohio State since he's been head coach at Michigan. And moving on to Oklahoma State versus Kansas State, the reason why I highlighted this one was because of
Uh,
yeah, I know. It was because of the massive differences in numbers again against these two teams. Um, Howard, the backup quarterback for Kansas State, went 21 for 37, 296 yards, and 4 touchdowns with no interceptions. And
played a perfect game.
yeah, and Deuce Vaughn, the running back for Kansas
Oh
State.
my
I mean,
God, a monster.
he's small. He's small, but he can do damage. 22 carries, 158 yards, averaged 7 yards per carry, and only 1 touchdown, which was that 50-yard run. Because, like you said yesterday, he can hide behind the line and just disappear.
And he does, and he uses that to his advantage. He knows he's like 5'3", 165 pounds. He's small, he's stocky, he's built like a brick shithouse. And I mean, honestly, he's a beast. Hold on. Sorry, my wife just got back. I had to let her in. But I mean, yeah, Deuce Vaughn is he's an absolute fucking beast. Um, and we knew he
Yeah,
was going to be a rushing threat to Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State has bottled him up the last 3 years to like
And
60 yards a game. We knew he was bound to have one good game against us. It was just so happened to be the game that Oklahoma State also had 9 of 22 starters missing, and I believe 5 of those were on defense in the
yeah,
secondary where it counts the most. Where, I mean, if Deuce Vaughn gets through your line, your secondary has to be there to tackle. And we had freshman after freshman after freshman after freshman after freshman in that secondary. Linebackers, middle linebackers, safeties, they were all freshmen or
yeah.
little to no experience on a college football field at all. So, I
It's
mean,
like
the outcome of the 48-0 was bound to happen because of that.
it's like Blackwell versus Heritage Hall, which those people that are watching, Blackwell was running with the high school. They weren't that great of a football team. They have a tradition of losing, and Heritage Hall is a heck of a good private school in Oklahoma City. Anyway,
Yeah, 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 yeah. And unfortunately for your Blackwell Maroons, I believe this season's tradition was to go 0-8.
well, they're 1-8 right now. They won the first
Who
game
did
of the
they beat?
season. They beat the
Oh, did they?
OK.
Okay.
They beat the OKC
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Patriots full team.
Uh, oh, yeah, that's right. 7-6 or
Yeah,
something like that. It was a very low scoring game.
yeah, and
But yeah, now so yeah, they're 1-7 or 1-8, something like that. But I mean, they went 0 in their district, and
and
didn't even get close to winning a game, like blown out of every game of the season.
and not to mention they have Millwood next this week, final game of the regular season. That's gonna be a
That's going to be murder.
yeah, and it's at Millwood.
Suit up the eighth graders and let them in their college or their football playing careers early, so that you save your high schoolers. Because if you shoot your
Yeah,
high schoolers up in that game, you're not going to have a high schooler to graduate to go to college and play football. Millwood don't play around. Millwood is ugly. Millwood is a majority black school. They have never played football by the rules. They are very, very, very dirty in the way they tackle, the way they hit, the way they play, the way they approach everything in the game is just, it's dirty ball is all it is. And that's from experience. I went to Millwood and was a broadcaster for Millwood High School for their basketball. And I was trying to get the broadcast for their football as well. So I started going to some of their football practices and games. Yeah, they don't play around. They are very ugly and dirty on the football field.
and getting back on topic here, so this is how much of a difference Kansas State was against Oklahoma State. So Spencer Sanders went 13 for 26, 147 yards, no touchdowns and one interception. Gunnar Gundy went
And
2 for
above the shoulder.
yeah, and he injured his shoulder too. So, and Gunnar Gundy, which is Mike Gundy's son, went 2 for 7, 16 yards, also no touchdowns and one interception. And the difference factor between Kansas State and Oklahoma State is that Gunnar Gundy led the team in rushing yards, and he was the backup quarterback for Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State only had 55 total rushing yards, and Gundy had the most with 27 yards on 5 carries. So their
Well, and
defense,
most of the time, Spencer Sanders probably would have ran for 100 to 200 yards against that defense because that defense was not that great. Honestly, it was more the fact that Oklahoma State had so many players out of the game at key positions that Oklahoma State couldn't make up the gap and couldn't make up the difference. It was an uphill battle for them before kickoff.
yeah,
Spencer Sanders didn't just injure his shoulder in that game. He went into that game already with a bum shoulder. Probably shouldn't have played. Gunner probably should have went ahead and started that game, but Spencer Sanders looked at Gundy and said, "No, I want to play this game. This game's important to us." So Gundy let him play until he finally re-injured that shoulder late in the third quarter or whenever it was when it finally happened. And then
yeah,
after the game, Gundy even admitted that he made that mistake. He probably shouldn't have let Spencer Sanders play with the bum shoulder, but he did it because of what the game meant to the team and because Spencer Sanders wasn't taking sit on the bench for an answer.
I mean, they were number 9 ranked in the nation. I don't blame him for wanting to play, but the
Right,
results with the
absolutely.
yeah, and um, one of the final thing I want to talk about in this podcast today is the highlight of the show. I think Tennessee versus Georgia coming up this Saturday, and this game looks really close on paper. Points per game, Vols are averaging 49 points a game, while Georgia averaging 41. Points allowed, 21 points for Tennessee, 10.5 points for Georgia. I mean, this game just looks like it's going to be a dogfight to the end. No pun intended. But
What is
this
the
looks
opening line on that game?
the
Do we know
the
what the
what?
opening line on that game is? The opening line, who they have favorites right now, opening up.
Um, I saw on ESPN that the ESPN people have Georgia favored to win that game. It was a
By how
74% uh, ESPN analysis that they were. Oh, I know what you're talking about now. Okay, it was
did they
eight
say
point.
what the point spread would be?
Yeah, 8 points is a spread.
Ooh, if you're saying Georgia by 8, and I'm a betting man, and I'm betting on that game, we had this discussion last night, so this won't shock you at all. But if I'm a betting man and you're giving me Georgia by 8, I'm betting on Tennessee to cover the 8 points because I don't think Georgia will win by 7. I think they'll win by 3, maybe by 4, but I think it's going to be closer to a field goal game than it is a touchdown and 2-point conversion game.
Yeah, and it's going to be in Athens, Georgia, at Sanford Stadium. So Georgia has the home field advantage. If they win
Right.
that game, it's going to be because of their home atmosphere and the crowd getting
Yeah.
loud.
Right. And if you ask me now if you ask me to just bet the winner, who's going to win, put your money on who's going to win so that your bet wins, no point spread involved, then absolutely I would say Georgia. My pick is Georgia because Georgia being at home, everybody knows how that goes. Georgia at Georgia, how many times has Georgia lost at Georgia in the last 2 to 3 years? Two or
Not
three
very.
times, maybe, and that's it. Once a season, if that. Like, come on
Yeah,
now. and
yeah,
that's not, of course, counting college football playoff games, SEC title games, things like that they've lost in Athens. I'm talking actual regular season in Athens. How many regular season games have they lost? Not very many.
yeah. And I also have Georgia winning that game. I would say they would win by at least 7, because I mean I don't think their defense is going to allow for it to be like a 3-point game. With Georgia being defending national champions and undefeated, playing at home, it's gonna be a touchdown game. All right, so I thank everyone for watching this episode of Pigskin Talk, and I look forward to
We did
seeing.
not we did not get to the college football playoff expansion, but hopefully we'll get to that next time or in one of the other shows. We have plenty of time to get to that though in a different
Yeah,
show.
yeah, for sure. So, anyways, I want to thank you guys for watching this episode of Pigskin Talk, and remember, you don't just talk; you pigskin talk. Thank you guys for watching.
All right. In that there's that. All right.